The air in the intergalactic Peace Coliseum shimmered with ozone, pheromones, and something that smelled distinctly of overcooked squid. Thousands of species, some carbon-based, many decidedly not, crowded the levitating observation tiers, their bioluminescent name tags blinking in languages even the AI translators refused to parse. Flags flapped that weren't made of cloth. Slogans were shouted through mouths, slits, gills, vents. One particularly over-enthusiastic ambassador from the car blew herself into a temporary coma by overinflating her support sack. And at the center of it all, beneath gravity-stabilized starlight and anti-projectile wards, the arena pulsed with tension. Another trial of contestants was about to begin. Another attempt at peace through ritualized violence. The announcer, a hyperactive sentient AI cube named Hexabil, spiraled into the air like an over-caffeinated drone. Welcome, welcome, my writhing sentients, to the 117th Galactic Proxy Clash, brought to you by Orlax Defense Systems and Flumberry Juice Boxes. Today's matchup, Earth's representative versus the reigning terror of 8 spiral arms, General Skarg of the Krylock Dominion. The crowd screamed, or vibrated, or chorused in fungal harmony. Every species had a way to express bloodlust, and the Colosseum accommodated them all. Electromagnetic auras for the Nuvans, sand burrowing zones for the silicates, and a polite clapping platform for the TLer who detested noise but adored violence. At Earth's assigned gate, Gate G17B, just between the emergency slime exit and the tranquility composters, there was a noticeable absence. "Oh," Hexabil chirped, spinning rapidly. "Looks like our mammals are running fashionably late. Is Earth forfeiting? Did they forget the time zone again? Classic Earth." Laughter rippled across species lines. Earth, after all, had been a surprise inclusion in the Galactic Accords, an accident, some said, brought on by a clerical error involving radioactive whale song and an over-friendly diplomat from Venus, 4. They were a charming backwater, famous mostly for sarcasm, overconfidence, and soft drinks that could strip paint. Then, at precisely T-minus 20 seconds before default disqualification, a small matte black dropship descended, humming a song only 80s synthwave fans might recognize. It didn't land so much as decide the ground should meet it. The hatch opened. 3 figures stepped out, all human, all clad in black tactical armor devoid of insignia. 2 stood like sentinels, unspeaking. The third, a woman, medium height, 0 visible weapons, a faint scar tracing her left eyebrow, chewed calmly on something and squinted up at the arena. Mira Voss did not look like salvation. She looked like someone you'd ask not to sit next to you on a long shuttle ride. A Krylock bureaucrat scuttled up, extending an ink-stained tentacle. "Per treaty, we offer Earth full protection under the Krylock Dominion, should you choose to abstain from this hopeless." "From what?" Mira asked, voice dry as Martian dust. The tentacle paused. "From existential threats. Galactic piracy. Or, say, us." Mira blew a mango seed onto the bureaucrat's carapace. "We're good." The crowd roared with laughter. Some of it genuine, some of it nervous. Only the humans didn't laugh. Inside the arena, environmental systems flared to life. The sand shifted to molten obsidian. Gravity randomized in 30-second intervals. Storm clouds, coded for dramatic effect, flickered above. Mira walked toward the entrance like she was heading into a mildly unpleasant dentist appointment. In the council booth, a spindly diplomat from the Jelveth Confederacy muttered through its mucus translator, "They sent 1 sniper against General Skarg? This is either bravery or a neurological defect." "Could be both," replied the Terran ambassador, a retired social studies teacher who once got locked in a UN supply closet with a bear and survived by explaining climate policy until it left. Across the arena, Skarg made his entrance with his typical subtlety, i.e., a multi-stage march involving flaming banners, a horn section, and the public ceremonial beheading of a training droid. The cheers that greeted him weren't just excited, they were reverent. The general had conquered 12 species. Earth, to him, was dessert. He clacked his claws together in a gesture of mock welcome. "Human," he rasped, voice deep enough to ripple dimensional membranes, "I hope your blood sings a more interesting tune than your diplomats." Mira looked around, found the announcer still hovering too close, and said, "Is this being recorded?" Of course. Hexabill sparkled. Simulcast across 14 galaxies and one particularly interested cult on Zeta Ring 7. Cool, she said. Don't edit out the part where he underestimates me. The crowd loved that. The Krylock delegation did not. Mira stepped into the circle of initiation, lined with plasma chalk and predictive kinetic tracers. The only weapon she carried was a short, modified rifle slung across her back like a forgotten tool. No energy blades. No exosuit. No helmet. The contrast was absurd. Shkarg's armor alone weighed more than a cargo shuttle. He could crush bone by blinking wrong. And yet he watched her with the cautious hatred predators reserve for other predators. As the pre-fight rituals began, Krylock drum flesh pulsating, anti-void hymns from the sentient choir Lycan, Mira rolled her neck and muttered, "Smells like hubris in here." The audience leaned forward, some metaphorically, some on dozens of independently moving legs. This wasn't just a match. This was Earth saying, "We never asked for protection. We came to prove you might need ours." At exactly midnight on the arena chrono, a resonant chime sounded, a note designed to vibrate equally through bones, plasma, and fungal cortexes. The gates locked. The lights dimmed. And Mira Voss, representative of humanity's most dangerous instinct, calculated defiance, smiled faintly beneath a black sky. Let them think she was alone. Let them think Earth was weak. They'd understand soon enough. The staging chamber was the calm before the chaos. If calm meant flickering hazard lights, randomized gravity tugs, and a faint scent of burnt ozone mixed with coffee grounds. Mira Voss sat on a steel bench not meant for comfort, elbows on knees, eyes tracking the arena's pulsing telemetry on a hovering HUD. Her fingers moved in midair, index, thumb, pause, recalculate, mapping a silent geometry that no one else could see. Wind 0. Except there's no wind, she murmured. Okay, pretend we're on Mars again. Behind her, the other two snipers stood watch, not as bodyguards, but as observers. She was the point of the spear. They were the calibration. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. Earth's sniper team was selected less for conversation and more for how well they saw angles, literal and existential. Mira adjusted the grip of her custom rifle, short barrel, modified recoil dampener, capable of firing within regulation limits while ignoring most of them. Its name, etched in barely perceptible nanoprint across the receiver. Finch. No story attached. No sentimental weight. It was just what she called it. A signal buzzed overhead in binary chirps. Arena parameters confirmed. Gravity would cycle between 0.7 g and 1.4 g. Terrain shift probability, 22%. Visibility interference, moderate. Crowd interference, highly probable. She smiled without humor. Across the Colosseum, Shkarg preened under artificial starlight, his carapace polished to a chrome gleam that caught every spotlight and weapon glare. The Krylock champion was a terrifying presence, 3 meters tall, 500 kilos of combat-optimized chitin and rage. His pincers flexed rhythmically as honor scribes inked fresh victory glyphs across his flanks. Every line a death. Every swirl a conquest. The audience devoured it. Shkarg was a spectacle, a demigod of violence. He had defeated sentient tanks, telepathic swarm mines, and once decapitated a dual-bodied gladiator with a single leap. Against him, Earth had sent. What? A woman with a rifle and a talent for unpopular math? Commentators began their ritual mockery. The three-headed avian beast from Nebulan Channel 6 cooed into its translator. Earth's contestant appears to be stretching. Bold choice. Perhaps she intends to disarm Shkarg with yoga. Or maybe she'll bore him into surrender with basic kinematics, replied the floating AI cube co-host, currently glitching between amusement and disdain. The betting lines surged again. Odds against Mira went from 9,000:1 to 10,500:1 after a Krylock fan club announced a pre-victory feast. They'd already started marinating the celebratory larvae. Mira reached into her side pouch and pulled out a squashed protein bar, took a bite, and chewed like someone whose day had been significantly worse. She'd fought before. On Earth. Off Earth. Places humans still denied were war zones, because the paperwork never got signed. Mira knew what it meant to be underestimated. She'd built a career around it. Fought insurgents who called her Invisible Death. Took down warlords who thought she was a myth. She never corrected them. Shkarg roared, more for the cameras than for any tactical reason. His voice crackled through comms, his native tongue half-crunch and half-ultrasound, translated lazily by a bureaucratic AI. Surrender now, Earthling. Die with acceptable cowardice. Mira didn't bother to respond. She knew better than to waste breath on broadcast insults. The real message would come in degrees, of arc, of timing, of center mass. Final calibration, whispered one of her team, slipping a palm-sized module onto the rail of her rifle. It blinked green, then purple, then black. Neural sync stable. HUD ready. Breathing irregular, but that's always been your charm. Thanks, Doc, she muttered. Tell HQ not to start the funeral playlist yet. We didn't bring one. Optimists, she said, standing. Shkarg had finished his pageantry. Now came the slow stomp to the center ring, claws raised, antennae quivering in anticipation. His honor scribes followed behind, ink dripping from stylus claws as they documented his predicted victory in advance. Nothing humble about it. The Krylock did not believe in fate. They believed in superiority written before the fight even began. Mira jogged a few quiet steps in place. Checked her pulse. Slower than expected. One of the Krylock announcers chimed in again. Earth's contestant lacks visible exoskeleton, symbiotic armor, or rage glands. Fascinating strategic oversight. Possibly a cultural thing, replied the AI. Humans are known to favor soft targets and wildly inappropriate confidence. She walked alone toward the center of the arena, scanning the terrain as it shimmered under reconfiguration protocols. Obsidian pillars, static vents, shifting sand traps. It was built to favor large, powerful organisms. Which was fine. She didn't need the terrain to work for her, she just needed it not to get in her way. The key wasn't brute force. It never had been. It was understanding how long the enemy would commit to the wrong decision. Shkarg was banking on spectacle, on dominance, on crushing her before the cameras could even adjust focus. He'd trained for thousands of hours. Mira had trained to be forgotten, until it was far too late. A tone sounded, prelude to engagement. The arena's light shifted to combat hue, a deep maroon meant to accommodate species with complex vision systems. The temperature dropped 6 degrees. Atmospheric oxygen increased slightly to intensify stamina. A cruel, subtle tilt in favor of species with denser musculature. Mira cracked her neck. The sniper's prayer wasn't a prayer. It was a checklist. Wind, none. Drop rate, standard gravity bias. Visual clutter, acceptable. Psychological profile of opponent, aggressively confident. Favorite move, vertical charge with rotational torque. She smiled. Time to dance, Finch. Across the field, Shkarg struck his blades against his carapace and bellowed. The crowd shrieked in unison. Even in a galaxy that had seen 100 wars, some stories felt pre-written. This one, they thought, would end with a claw through a soft human torso and a lecture about surrender. But Mira didn't believe in pre-written stories. She believed in angles. And angles, unlike crowds, never lied. The timer hit 0. The air went still. And both the hunter and the spectacle moved. At first, there was silence. Manufactured, deliberate. The arena's sound capture fields muted ambient noise for the sake of the broadcasters. Only the heartbeat of the crowd remained. Low, anticipatory pulses broadcast as synthetic drumbeats through the Colosseum's vibration channels. Mira Voss didn't flinch. Not when the pillars began to rise, nor when the first gravity pulse sent her a centimeter into the air and back down. She'd trained for instability, for chaos. Earth's finest weren't raised in pristine labs. They were shaped in collapsed cities and near misses. The announcer chirped over the comms, tone gleeful. And here comes the gravity shuffle, folks. Predictable for most species. Catastrophic for those without subdermal anchors. Sorry, Earth. Mira let the sarcasm wash over her. Krylock's strategy depended on these shifts. Arena configurations were rigged for their physiology: solid footing, large spaces, vertical clearance. For snipers, it was a bad joke. No elevation control, no guaranteed line of sight. Unless, of course, you understood the pattern. Every 22 seconds, terrain reconfigured. At 88, it repeated. Mira had caught that in warm-up. The sequence favored terrain memory over brute strength. Krylocks were fast, but they weren't tactical learners. They didn't think in loops. Humans did. Skarg began his approach. He didn't run, he thundered. Each step a minor seismic event, sand exploding beneath clawed feet. His limbs flexed like war catapults. With every stride, he picked up speed, calculating impact trajectories in real time. His eyes glowed a venomous orange. 8 limbs moved in perfect synchronization. Terrifying. Predictable. Mira counted her breaths. 3 in. 3 out. She pivoted to the left, disappearing behind a rising spire of obsidian. She didn't sprint. No wasted motion. She moved like liquid tension, low and swift, conserving energy. No power suit. No visible shield. Just Mira and Finch. Skarg struck the spire where she'd stood half a breath ago. The stone cracked. Chips flew. A Krylock cheer pulsed through the stands. The galaxy adored carnage. Bloodless tactics bored them. Too bad. From a lower ridge, Mira dropped to one knee. Finch whined softly as she toggled its chamber setting to 197 meters per second, just under the regulation max. The shot wouldn't break the rules. Not technically. She sighted a relay beacon 60 meters away, an antenna the arena used for terrain feedback. Obsolete. Unshielded. Perfect. One shot. Ping. The round ricocheted off the beacon, into a titanium deflector plate buried in the arena wall, then disappeared. No damage. No direct contact. But the line had been established. She moved again, disappearing into the reconfiguration shadows. Skarg snarled, frustrated. His combat script called for close-range confrontation. For fear. But Mira wasn't playing the script. She was scribbling her own across the walls with math and recoil. Terrain shifted again, giant slabs rising, twisting. A new gravity vector tilted the field 30 degrees. Mira slid down a polished surface and kicked off into a ledge as if gravity obeyed her, not the field. Above her, a narrow arch formed, temporary. 14 seconds to collapse. Just enough. She paused beneath it, then fired again. At the exact point the ricochet would bend off a mirrored pylon, skipping through a magnetic drain vent and landing somewhere beyond the spectator's ability to follow. The crowd murmured. A slow realization was blooming. Mira wasn't running. She was positioning. Skarg roared again and launched himself forward, embedding claws into a vertical structure. He scaled it, too fast for something so big. From his perch, he located Myra's last known position, then leapt, hard, precise, apex predator fury. She didn't dodge. She calculated. As he descended, Mira stepped sideways into a lower gravity bubble. Time dilated slightly. Her breath caught. Her vision sharpened. Neural sync peaked. Finch aligned. In slow motion, she fired. Not at him. At a curved deflector shield 20 meters away. The round bounced, kissed a support column, bent off a motion sensor node, and vanished. Skarg landed where she'd stood, slamming the stone into rubble. Dust. Smoke. No blood. But Mira was gone again. He hissed, spinning. Commentators babbled. Is she aiming at nothing? Is this performance art? Did Earth send a malfunctioning unit as protest? Or maybe we're watching a trap, the AI replied flatly. One drawn in 3 dimensions. The crowd's laughter weakened. Something had shifted. Mira knew the shot wouldn't strike yet. It wasn't meant to, not now. She emerged beside a plasma vent, rifle held at rest, letting the hot air blur her outline. She could see Skarg clearly, his shell already damp with exertion, his pincers twitching with the need to feel his opponent beneath them. He charged again. And this time Mira ran, only 10 steps, just enough to bait him through the time dilation ripple forming at the arena's southern edge. Just enough for him to step into a bubble he didn't know had slowed by 30%. She fired again, at a tiny reflector embedded in a previously cracked wall. Her original ricochet, shot minutes earlier, passed through the bubble, finally realigning. Now it had purpose. It met her second shot in midair, a rare, impossible collision that redirected the round, just enough to find the crack in Shkarg's secondary armor plate. A hiss. Not a scream. Just a sharp noise, like insulted machinery. He froze mid-charge, then staggered. Impact was not lethal. Not yet. But it told him what he hadn't wanted to believe. She could hit him whenever she chose. She had always been able to. That was the turning point. Not when blood was drawn, but when belief shattered. Mira exhaled slowly and stepped into the open. Shkarg hesitated. He wasn't built for doubt. He was engineered for overwhelming force, for awe. And awe had left the building. One final shot, deliberate, not flashy. No ricochet, no trick. Just a single pull of the trigger, aimed directly. Shkarg moved to parry. But he was a second late. The round struck clean through his secondary eye cluster. The damage was internal, not visible. No gore. No drama. Just the sudden stillness of something that had never considered it might be outmatched. He staggered once more, lifted a claw, and collapsed. Mira didn't move. She waited. 30 seconds. Long enough to know it wasn't a trick. Then she slung Finch over her shoulder and said to no one in particular, "End sequence." The arena lights froze. The crowd was still. And across the Galactic Accord's data stream, the odds recalculated in real time. The House had lost. Humanity, once again, had written a new equation. The Colosseum exhaled. And then it erupted. The moment Shkarg fell, the universe held its breath, not out of fear, but out of confusion. For the first time in 1,000 trials, a Krylock champion had been downed without a single visible wound. No severed limb. No splatter of fluid. No triumphant roar of conquest. Just a final, echoing thud and a claw twitch that signaled the collapse of every sure bet placed across 8 galactic economies. Mira Voss didn't pose. Didn't raise her rifle overhead or scream a battle cry into the silence. She simply adjusted Finch's sling strap, turned away from the body, and walked toward the exit like a woman leaving a very loud bar with the wrong kind of music. Behind her, med drones buzzed out from the arena walls like startled insects, scanning Shkarg's inert form. The results flickered onto the public feed in red-gold glyphs. Nervous systems intact. Circulatory flow minimal. Consciousness absent. No broadcast host said anything for a full 11 seconds. Galactic legal translators went into a panic spiral, unsure whether a shot to the neural cluster counted as lethal or dignified incapacitation. The rules didn't account for what had just happened. The crowd, now divided, processed the aftermath with species-specific panic. The oozes jiggled ominously, the reptiles hissed in confusion, and the fungi began releasing anxiety spores that fogged the upper tiers. Hexabill, the announcer cube, rebooted midair and finally squeaked. And, ladies and gents, that concludes our, highly unexpected, yet apparently valid, trial of contestants. His co-commentator, the three-headed avian beast, emitted a low series of wheezes that, when translated, approximated, "We may need new metaphors for violence." The Terran ambassador stood slowly in the observation booth, visibly stunned. He had spent the last 4 days preparing legal apologies and humble statements of Earth's gratitude for Krylock protection. Now, the Krylock diplomats were leaving, quickly, angrily, clicking their mandibles in outrage, dishonor glyphs spontaneously darkening on their thoraxes. A hologram of the Treaty of Conditional Protection flickered above the council floor. It disintegrated with a melodic chime as Earth's request was automatically voided due to demonstrated independent strategic competence. Back in the arena's subchambers, Mira rinsed the dust off her gloves under a biosanitizer mist. The overhead lights buzzed faintly. A fresh synth coffee cartridge hissed into the dispenser behind her, unnoticed. Her second, Elias, leaned against the far wall, chewing on a stem gum he wasn't technically allowed to have. "You realize you just destabilized a century of diplomatic hierarchy, right?" he asked. Mira pulled her gloves off finger by finger. "Was that today's mission briefing? I missed the part where we weren't supposed to do that." "You sure you didn't aim to kill?" "If I aimed to kill, he wouldn't have fallen face first. He'd have folded backward." Elias blinked, then looked away. "You're terrifying." She shrugged. "I'm practical." The cryo-sealed doors opened with a sigh. Two representatives from the Accord approached, one floating on a gravity disk, the other stomping with poorly hidden urgency. Their expressions were unreadable, either because they had too many eyes or not enough faces. "Lieutenant Voss," the floating one said, voice metallic and echo-filtered. "Per Galactic Regulation 445.2b, Earth has now demonstrated eligibility for Autonomous Defense designation. A re-evaluation of your species' Strategic Threat Index is underway." Mira nodded, sipping the coffee without expression. "Sounds like a paperwork problem." Several planets just downgraded their treaties with the Krylock. There's market panic. Rumors that Earth snipers can predict gravity are already circulating. "That's silly," she said. "We can't predict it. We just don't need to." Outside, the crowd had turned. No longer mocking, the energy was something else now. Half respect, half alarm. They didn't know how to file Mira away. She didn't fit their categories. Too small to be monstrous. Too calm to be ceremonial. Too surgical to be lucky. She had ended Shkarg. Not through brute force, but through something even more frightening. Premeditated physics. They weren't ready for that kind of violence. In the arena's media room, a rerun played in slow motion. Myra's final shot. The impossible angle. The seamless trigger pull. A moment of perfect stillness before the recoil. It was being dissected in schools of combat, rewatched by generals, mimicked by children with makeshift blasters. The shot had transcended species. It was now a symbol. Not of power. Of precision. Back in her quarters, Mira sat on the edge of her bunk and removed her boots like someone folding up a storybook. She opened a pouch and retrieved a photo, a crumpled, dog-eared print of her old squad. Earth had never held galactic weight, but her people knew how to win when no one thought they could. That photo. Every one of them was listed as presumed lost in the failed Mars Phevos mission. Except her. "Still doing the work," she said softly. "Still keeping score." A notification chimed across her retinal display. Incoming messages. Over 1,000. From military councils. From intelligence networks. From mercenary guilds offering 10-digit contracts. She closed them all. A quiet knock came at her door. Elias again. He handed her a sealed envelope, analog. A rare thing. She opened it. Inside was a letter with only one sentence. "Next time, don't make it look so easy." No name. Mira smiled. Just a little. The galaxy had seen something it didn't know how to classify. A human sniper, unaided, rewriting the odds. They thought they'd offered Earth protection. Earth, it seemed, had offered a warning. And Mira Voss? She'd offered an answer. It just happened to come at 197 meters per second.